Okay, hi there guys. Can you hear me loud and clear now? Just getting up and running. Just on the going through the hotspot today. Start off here on the laptop in front of the TV. So I've got my screens, I've got everything organised. Can you hear me clearly now, guys? We're picking up okay. Yeah, Nando, I had a technician. All good. And had a technician on the weekend, and he gave me the news I was hoping not to hear, as in 5 megabits per second to the street is pretty much as fast as it goes. And I was probably getting 20 to 30 back at the old place on cable. So it crimps it a hell of a lot. So he's basically saying, yeah, around 4 is not too bad. So after hearing that, I think ADSL2, when some people are getting, my brother's getting about 20 megabits per second. So, and I'm getting somewhere, if I'm lucky, at 4, between 1 and 4. And it's sometimes around 2 to 3, so it's just not good enough. So I'm going to go to something called Livewire. If you've heard of it, it's like a modem, like your standard modem, so you can do your house through Wi-Fi, but it goes through the 4G network, not the hard lines. It goes through the mobile telephone service, and that's what I've got my hotspot on. And it's actually really, well, I think it's going to be a lot better. It's going to be better all around, so we'll that should improve things a lot, I'd say. So yeah, I think I'll end up just cancelling it. So yeah, you got the same there, Frank. Yeah, I figured you did. Well, and the data you can get, it used to be you'd chew up the megs on that, but with Optus they've got, I think Telstra's got similar plans now. You can get $70 a month, get up to 200, or you can get over. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, you can get unlimited gigs, so I don't have to worry about how much I'm downloading through it, or how much I'm actually using it. You can get unlimited for about $90, so I'm pretty happy with that. It costs you for the modem, but it can get set up straight away, so I figured I just had to get the guy to check on the weekend. Might as well get him out. He didn't check anything much at all in the house. He said it's all good. It's just not that fast, and it's never going to be fast, which is a bit of a bummer. It's not what you want to hear when you're trying to do, you know, in the trading game. But anyway, we deal with it and we move on. So welcome, guys. Before I get too sidetracked, welcome. I hope you all had a great weekend. Welcome to TradeSetup. It is the 27th, so we're getting a step closer to Chrissy. So it's getting the busy time of the year. Even though work quietens down, the markets might quieten down a bit, you're still getting busy. So we're going to organise our Christmas. We're going to organise a few other things. We're going to have a bit of a working bee. If anyone wants to join in, I've got you pegged in, Frank. We've had some trees taken back, so our backyard now is bare. We're going to do a bit of work to it, but for now it's looking rather bare. We've got no cover whatsoever, so that's going to be up into Christmas. Markets. I haven't got my standard page, as you'll see. This is the Spark platform. I haven't got my standard page, which you'd normally remember showing all the Twitter feeds. So anyone that's new, we do have a Twitter feed under trade_setup, and we have our Facebook page. So you search just on Facebook, you'll be able to link into us on there, and also on YouTube, obviously. YouTube, we've got our standard page there, so just search for TradeSetup. If you refer back to some of the older, well, even last week's on Thursday's stream, you'll see it. It's the first thing that pops up. You'll see the links in there. Friday night was a shortened session in the US as they come back for Thanksgiving, but I think they cracked onto new all-time highs. I'm not sure if it's a Dow, S&P, or both. We can have a look in just a second. But yeah, they did all right. We'll actually might as well get into it now. Have a look at it. I'm just looking up now. I'm going to figure out what I'm doing. Indices. Here we go. The Dow. I think they only just barely got to new all-time highs. Let me just set myself up. They may have just gone to new highs. Oh, no, I don't think they did, to be honest. Might have been the S&P. I think the S&P did a bit better. Yeah, so they ticked off into new all-time highs on the S&P. So that's the broader market, which is, you know, a good sign that, look, everyone says all the bears are out. They're all raging. They have been pretty much most of this time, most of the year, and you can see that the market's just been ticking high and grinding higher. And a lot of the times you do need these people. I mean, if everyone's a bull, everyone's buying, then you're really going to have, everyone's going to buy in, you've got no one less to buy. So you do need people to second guess it, to jump in and to get squeezed out and just keep driving this market higher. Bit of profit taking, people buy on dips, buy on pullbacks, just to get that market ticking away and continuing higher. So with the S&P, I think what they were talking about just here, and probably before, I think interest rates have been on the cards. Pretty much going to get an interest rate. I think it's everything but locked in for December. I mean, it could be a bit of a surprise, but it's about 95% of guaranteed it's going to rate rise in the US in December. I don't know exactly the date, but soon. But the thing is, was the future rate rises, that's what they're looking at. And I think what the minutes of the last meeting said in FOMC, or the Fed Reserve, said that there's a lot of concern about inflation, and they're not, as in, not concerned that it's going backwards, but it's just not going the right direction. So maybe it doesn't warrant rate rises what they were predicting, probably 2 next year. Maybe it doesn't, and that would, in that respect, then, you know, it comes back to the old thing: what's driving the market higher? There's really nowhere else to put the US, to put funds, bar US equities. I mean, not saying that for us, but over in the US, there's not too many places you can put funds. I mean, bonds, they're not going to yield too much at all. They're not going to pay out too much. But so everyone's just ticking into equities. I mean, it's grinding high, it keeps going higher, keeps making all-time highs. When you've got clear skies like that, there's nowhere really for anyone to take, you know, profit taking, where you might get a major reaction where the sellers just come in and lock in some gains. At the moment, there's really nowhere. It's still grinding high, and we've gone over it before. If we click over to the weekly, maybe it's not so much on the S&P. Yeah, it's not really going to show us. Oh, it's actually the ASX we're talking about, so don't worry about that. But when there's no real resistance, it just can keep grinding high. What you'll probably get is a bit of a slowdown as less and less people buy into the market, and it starts to stall. You might have a bit of a pullback, wash out a few people, then you get bargain hunters jumping back in. But until there's somewhere else to place their money, you'd expect the money just to keep flowing into the market and trying to get yield from, you know, stocks. You know, it becomes a bit of a stock picker's market, picking the quality ones, especially as we grind higher. You've got to pick those quality setups that actually have got higher potential of moving up. Otherwise, if you just jump into something that's a bit overextended, they back off a bit, and then maybe the market crashes and you can get caught. So it's really searching for those good setups that are going to give you some good returns. I think that's what's looking likely over in the US. The bonds, we've spoken about the yield curve, it's flattening. So when it's a flattening yield curve, there's one of two things. It's either longer term interest rates look like they're going to drop and short term are not moving, or, you know, short term moving higher when longer term are not moving too much. And that's what's happening. You've got short term bonds in the US are moving higher, sort of catching up to the yield on longer term bonds, and they're starting to drift a bit lower, purely because longer term there may not be any rate rises. So if that keeps flattening, you'd expect not much to happen in the way of inflation, which means it's not much to happen, but the market to go up. Obviously, you've got the tax reform in the US, which is a big thing. And if that's, you know, sooner or later that's going to come back to bite them. I think if it's going to have a few problems, they keep taking one step forward or 2 steps forward, 1 step back over there. Now they've got it through and they're still debating it. So whether it's just going to get delayed, and that's not a bad thing for equity markets. The longer it gets delayed, the longer people, you know, there's no reason to sell just yet equities with interest rates where they are. So it could be a good thing. It keeps grinding high to new highs and it drags us up in the same time. So, sorry, just sipping my coffee. That's what I think the theme is going to be. Now, let's look at other markets. FTSE. Let's go to the weeklies now, just see longer term. That's, you know, it's still got that move high. We've got a bit of resistance, just stalled at that resistance. I think we've got our key level just here at, where are we now on the lows? 71.96, so 72 even. I think if we can hold up here and start picking up a bit on this market, if we get a high low just in here somewhere, and we start lifting above that 74.50, I think that's going to grind up and push through the highs, make new highs in the FTSE. We've got the DAX. The DAX is starting to show some good signs too, of holding a high low here and busting into new highs through that 13,500 mark. We'll see how that goes. And the ASX, XJO, look, I still think that's looking quite healthy. That it's just the size of that contraction, so that washed out a lot of people. just prior to breaking through that 6,000 mark. Now we just spiked up through it, and I expect this, I'm sort of looking for this to be a higher low and the market to start accelerating higher. It's looking like this, we had just that move and then bang, we went through 6,000. We could do the same, sort of grind higher on the daily charts and then just bang through that 60-50. And then I still think if you just, is it this or the monthly, measure out this move from low to high, and that's your little pullback, your correction. We're starting, if we're potentially starting that new leg high, we're starting to look up towards those highs, at all-time highs, just below 7,000. So I still think there's a lot of positivity in our market anyway. I mean, if you've got a different idea, don't put it in the chat, you're bad. No, I think that's sort of what I'm looking for, but you can't have this powerful move up through 6,000 without some sort of correction. Whether we get a bit of a lower high here and we start backing off from 6,000, we just wash out a few of these, a few people in this move up and then start holding a major high low, that, you know, ideally I think we're going to get the same move up anyway. All right, so that's where we are. That's what I'm looking at on the ASX. In the way of alerts that we got going, I had a bit of a late one. We noticed it tick off today on, what is it, ACX. So that's gone on well. That's gone through our entry at 524, I think it was. Ticked off on that on Friday. And that's going quite, it's backing off a bit today, which you probably expect after a good strong move up, but that's still, we can go back. That weekly is still looking like it's going to curve, you know, and get a nice, I think, bit of head of steam after pretty much most of this year gap down towards the start of the year, and it's been holding higher lows and starting to edge its way up. I think that's looking quite good. Again, it's getting a touch extended with that little move up on Friday, but it's still, that's a confirmed higher low now at 475 around that zone. And I think if we can just sort of grind our way up, maybe build another higher low and then just keep going. I think it's got some, Aconics is looking quite good. What are the other ones actually? Let's go to here. Just got to get our alerts. Tor, it's hanging around at the moment. We've got our stop, I think, just below this, about around, say around that 35 mark. We've had a partial exit at 37.5. We may have even just touched it up to around 37.5, but we'll see. Let me just check. Just got to flip back and forward. No, I can't see it. Anyway, so that's still going quite well. That could be a high low here, but you can just see the difference in movement is what I tend to take a big notice of. I hate it when it does that. All right. And you can see that's quite nice. You know, it's a big move up, nice correction, big strong move up. But this recent pricing compared to what we've seen, that was a good powerful move up, accelerated, bit of a washout. We had pullback for the high low, and we just took out the highs mildly, a bit of a pullback. So we're not going too far before we have a pullback. So there may be a time soon where it's either going to accelerate up again or we're going to get stopped out. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's great if it accelerates up, but if we do get stopped out, so be it. We book some good healthy gains on that. MGE is looking good. I can never remember, we got him below 290. I think it was somewhere around there, taking a partial at 294, and we're at 302 now. So we've got our, I think, the remaining stop about 294 as well, and just see if that can keep grinding higher. It's starting to on the weekly. It's definitely getting extended. There's going to come a time we're going to have to, I think, really tighten it up, because, you know, by tightening it up, you're still giving it a bit of room to move on the upside, but you're not going to give up too much if it does roll over, especially when, you know, there's times when it starts this trend, say in here, if you were long from the breakout at 280, for example, go back to the daily, breakout at 280, you can leave your risk a bit looser because it is, you know, if you've got it right and you planned it out right and you've done everything right, then you're at the start of a trend up. But when it starts to get extended like that, you know, you've got, maybe this is a good strong move up, or maybe this is just part of this one move up. You have good pullback right back to the anchor levels, which were down here at 260, around that at that stage, and we've had a good accelerated move up. Here you can leave it a bit looser, but up here when it's starting to get a bit extended, there's a good, I just think I'm happy just to start tightening things up a bit. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. RMD going well. Again, we're happy to tighten that up a bit. I'm still debating whether just to get out, but that sort of goes against the principles of our trading style. So I'll let that go. CCAF, that was one that's just ticked off a bit today. So Dav, if you're listening, mate, I'm winning. get that cold six-pack ready. I like to talk a bit of rubbish, so a bit of friendly banter. So that's what we're looking for. That's it. Had that pullback, pushed up, made a lower high, had another washout. That's all in context to that weekly high low at $5. This little move, it's just washing out people. So hopefully we get that move up. I would expect that to move up at least through 620, even attacking that 630 and moving up through there, just to start a nice leg up and take out the highs. That would be ideal, and then we just get through the all-time highs, which are what are they, 667. That would be nice if it worked out, if it just worked out perfectly. But at the moment you can see it did kick off through $6, so it's obviously a bit of a level for people. We can just see if they can get a bit of a run on into the close and continue higher. How's it all coming through, guys? All nice and clear? Just let me check. I'll get my mouse. Oh, good. Oh, good. Gee, that's a hell of a lot better. No drop frames, everything. So we're looking good. What else have we got? CKF, we've gone over. SAR, which had a good announcement today, but it kicked on from the open, but it's just starting to back off. I don't like that, and I wouldn't like it if we get stopped out at 145. I would have expected, we've just raised that stop to 145 because I would have expected after that news for that to kick on and just grind through that 145 and make some new highs. But instead it's opened up, ticked off to 152.5, and then just backed off. So maybe that picks up into the close again and it can hold above that 145. But if it takes that 145, I know it could backfire on me, but I'm happy to reassess it. I don't want to risk too much on that. If it's just struggling to get through those highs, you can always reassess it, and jump back in and through 150 again. So yeah, happy just to tighten up a bit up on that one, especially after some good news. And that was good news, some good drilling results. They're expanding, they're doing well, good growth, everything's working in their favour, except for the price. But we'll see. Fleetwood, I've just skipped one, SGM. That's starting to struggle a bit, which is not nice for me. But yeah, it's looking like it's getting rejected too much up here. So this could be a lower high and roll over. But the weekly is the one. It actually looks quite good. At 1300s, nice high low. It's just got to confirm it. And you're probably finding that if we don't hold up here, if we take out that 1350, we're stopped at anyway, and then I'm wrong. Obviously we're wrong. We have to reassess it. But I'd hate to see it spike through that and then pop back up and just continue on, but that's the nature of the beast. So we're still in this one. It's just backed off since we got in at 1450. Yeah, we just want to see that continue on. We want to see it turn around and come back up, but at the moment it's a bit of selling pressure. That selling is just stepping in. The buyers haven't stepped back in at the moment. We'll see. Fleetwood, that's going good. 290. That triggered the other day as well. That triggered just on Friday, I think. Pushed up through. I haven't got my spreadsheet with me, so I think it was through that, just below 280, 70 something. Anyway, looking good. It's kicked on. It's still looking quite strong. I think that weekly is looking quite good after that rejection, and we tend to look at that a lot. You can see this move up. We've had a big pullback, washed out a few people, tried to go again, couldn't go, and it's had a deeper washout. And you can see by these couple of days it really accelerated, but then it's held up. So that's a good sign that we're going to start again after it's washed out quite a few of these late buys. Some around that, above that 260, those late buys into that trend, been washed out, put back on the sidelines, ready to jump back in potentially. So it's washed out enough fuel to put on the sidelines to go back in, and that's what we like to see. So we can see if that it's probably going to build a higher low here from here and then go again, but we'll see. Still looking good. We've got an ACX, so that's pretty much it. There was something, and I haven't opened it up, which is a bit stupid, so I'll try to. I'm just going to have to do. I want to talk about the euro. We alerted a good little setup. If you bear with me, guys, I'm going to go back here. I'll just get up the alert and show you. I'll show you. I've just got to log in. The euro, it was a good little. Oh, look, I won't bother getting up the alert. If anyone, you can always go back onto our Twitter. look back on Twitter on the Euro. If you've got the actual app, just go through and search on everything there, and you'll see the actual. I'm just going to delete a few things. Let me get rid of that. You'll see the actual alert. We talked about it on Friday. So there was or you actually see it on YouTube. You would have seen it pop up. The last FX weekly that we're talking about the Euro, and it looked really, really good. And I just wanted to talk about it today because I think it's worthwhile. I've just got to get up the site. Just one, bear with me. Oh, come on. Just got to get up a chart and I can show you. Yeah, guys, start. I've only really wanted to chat about the Euro, and I've got one from Clement. He put in, he was looking at EUC. We're going to take a look at that as well. And so just get ready, just start chucking in some codes if you want, stuff that you want to look at. And look, we'll get into it. I just wanted to have a bit of a chat about, show you the setups. I mean, what we talk about a lot is fairly common. Well, the type of setups, I think on currencies, they tend to wash out a bit. All right, so this is an alert. I don't know if I can drag this across better. There we go. So this is on the Euro. I'm just going to make sure I can get across. There we go. Let's get rid of that. Let's get my little tool up and running. Oh no, that's not what I wanted either. Try that again. There we go. I'm going to go across here. All right. Now let's go. Where am I? Here we go. So this is something we've been looking at for a little while now. I was looking for a nice little correction. We alerted it somewhere in here, expecting it to roll over a bit deeper than it did. In essence, that pretty much played out like we expected. I thought it might have got a bit deeper, but it started holding up a bit earlier than 1450. And if we go back to probably the 4 hourly is a good chart. We started looking at it, and I think I'll draw it up if I can do that quickly. Actually, I'll just delete all this. So what we're looking at really is that push up through here. Okay. Now this is the correction we just spoke about. And I'll just draw a line. Make it a nicer color. Yeah, so that's, you know, it's what we look about on stocks quite a bit. You can see that the market's contracted. As soon as we started spiking up and we got this type of movement, and then you start backing off from there, you get that same 1-2 moves down. You can see, oh, let me just take a step back, sorry. So this, once you get this breakout here, you know that, okay, if that's definitely corrective action. You've got a major move down, so you sort of got that. Well, let me just, I'll change that to a thicker and a different color, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So you've got, we look at it for quite a bit. You've got one leg down here, then you had that little pop up, and then you've got your secondary leg down. All right, and then you do the same thing. We just sort of repeat that. Draw it in here. So you've got one leg down, and then you got that secondary leg down, and then it started picking up. So when you see that type of structure, we look for it a lot in stocks as well. It's really worthwhile taking note, whether it's FX, stocks, futures, you know, what else? You got anything else really. I like that sort of technical pattern or that technical structure. You can see that it's washing out people. It had a pop up, and then you get those initial buys jump in, a bit of euphoria, and then bang, they get washed back out again. So that's a bit of exhaustion there. When people are getting sick of it, they're waiting, or you're waiting for some buys. They might have tried in here, they're going to try again, and it starts to accelerate and start to really picking up. And it did the same thing just in here. So when I noticed this on Friday, I was expecting once it broke out through here, I think it was trading just below on a daily chart anyway, and it could really go on with it. So this, I thought I'd just show you this type of price action that we look for. This is a high low on a major scale above or if you can, oh, it's kind of frozen up on me, has it? Well, that's awesome. That's really nice. I think I've just frozen up. That's not nice, is it? All right, there we go. Yeah, so if you can just, it's worthwhile just taking a look through a few charts, whether it's, you know, anything, currencies, and just see if you can see that charting, sort of that technical price action playing out, and then just taking note and just looking for that continuation high, especially when you've had a major correction lower. You get a bit of a pop up here and you get some sellers stepping in. They may be looking for that lower high and then they get squeezed back out of the market. So I'm really expecting this to start looking up towards 2070, even above that longer term. May need to just have a bit of a high low from here. It's getting a bit, you know, extended up on that that range. If we go back to the daily, on the daily it's a bit extended at the moment as well. So just keep an eye on the euro. I'll keep alerting that, but keep an eye on that. I think that's, if they can pull back a bit, maybe even retest this area, build a high low and then go again, I think that's going to work its way up through, yeah, 120.70. Any questions, just what we're talking about? Does that make a lot of sense to you? You can see this nice trend higher. That trend was broken, so once it's broken there, you don't know what's going to happen, whether it's just going to break and go again, or you're going to get that corrective action. I tend to look for 1-2 moves down, and that's something that Davin is big on, and that's pretty much where I picked it up from. You look at that one move down, it sort of fakes in a few people, it holds the trend and it goes again, and then sometimes it can just lift without building your high low. It can just take off, which is signs of a really strong market, or you can sort of break out, pull back like the FX have done, and they do it more often than not, whereas shares just tend to go without you. Yeah, and you can see it's just popped up through the highs. You got your entry through here, you can hold your risk just below, say, this high low, and then just see what happens on the daily. See if you can press up through 120.70. Anyway, if there's no questions on that, we'll plug away. What was the other one? EUC. I thought I might show you that one. This is a daily chart. We'll go over to, might just look at it here. But that's looking pretty good. It's more, I think on the weeklies, it's got some good price action, and actually probably not worth looking at too much there. You see it did nothing through here, then it started lifting. Obviously something's changed, the dynamics of the company. Something's changed there. You started picking up, holding a high low in here, and really accelerated up to 30. Once you get that type of acceleration, really, and especially if it starts pulling back, really just start look for a deeper correction. Whether or not this is going to hold up here, hold up above 20. It needs to hold up above 20 for me, otherwise this could be a deeper correction. The good thing is, what I do like about it, and why I'll be a bit more positive than negative on it, if I can get in a bit better, that's it, is the way it's moved back up to the highs with this little candle. It started accelerating. You would have thought if it popped up here, maybe I would have thought it to retest and then start, you know, that secondary move lower, which we were just talking about, you know, 1, then 2. Actually, if I can draw this up. Where am I? I've got to lose my mouse. I'll just draw that up before we get too far. So that's it there. So if that's your first leg down, and we popped up here, so we broke only a minor level, but that's showing signs of, okay, pushing back up. The fact that it's gone up here and you've popped up sort of towards those highs, okay, it's either a double top, so if it gets through 30, I'll be bailing if you're into that. Only because it's, you see that little move there, that's actually quite, it's a nice little entry if you pushed it, bought it with a break just through, say, 25, but today is not looking that great. And if that goes through there, okay, that's, for me, that's going to be a confirmed double top, and then I would expect it to at least attack down towards sort of that 18 mark, even lower. But what I was talking about, this secondary move down, I would have expected it to say happen somewhere from there and extend a bit lower. The fact that it sort of popped up would have led me to believe I would have been positive here, as in looking for a nice little entry, and it did play out. Look, it was rejecting that 20 mark and then just popped up through that. But this, I mean, today is probably the one day that I'm not feeling too positive on that price action. So I thought I'd just show you. It's someone sent it through. It's worth having a bit of a chat about just the dynamics of the price action and what you'd be looking for. And this is why it's also very important to have your risk, know exactly where your risk is, and have your risk quite tight, because at this stage, you know, that even on Friday, well, probably not Friday, but today, if you bought it through 25, probably on Friday, on the highs, it would have been just into the close. And then today is not looking so great. So you've got to remember, if this fails and doesn't come out to plan, because you want this not to be a double top, this to hold as a higher low around 21, and it to work its way up and through 28, 29, up through 30 and continue on, because it's had a decent little washout. That move there, it's brought in some more buyers, washing them out, and that's got to hold. But if it's not, what are you going to do? So you've got to know exactly where your risk is, and it's no need to risk down below 18, 17, because I think it's well and truly, if you risk there and you get tagged on that, you're probably risking too much in my eyes, because this, for me, should have held as a higher low, pushed up through 25 and kept going. The fact today has thrown a bit of a spatter in the works, the fact that it's starting to roll over a bit, it's down 10%, just over 10%. Okay, for me, I'd be looking at it thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to be a bit wrong on this one, and go, you know, make sure you got tight risk on it anyway. But it's a good example of the price action, piecing things together, and also knowing exactly where your risk is, and not risking too much on any one trade. You know, don't let your ego come into it and risking too much. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Realize it, move on. Does that make sense here on that one, guys? What do we got here? So we've got MNF. All right, any questions on that, just feel free to chuck it through, put it on the chat. I'm just looking, I've just got to check every now and then what the streaming is at. It's got to make through, it's ticking away. I don't know if anyone knows, but upload speeds around 1,000 we can deal with, 1,100. That's what I was dealing with back at the old place. We're getting about 2,600 on the 4G network. So whether it's going to be the same on my little gadget that I'm going to buy, but you know, it's quite nice and clean. All right, so we're off to what's this MNF group? Look, go back a bit longer. There's not much to say about that, apart from it's in an uptrend. I mean, that's nice price action. You can see it sort of curved up. Let me draw it up. So I think just going through it, even though, I mean, personally, I probably wouldn't be buying it just now. Obviously, it's getting extended on the weekly, and it's getting towards extension on the daily. So I need to see a few people being washed out of the market before a bit of a pullback, maybe down towards 5 to 550, building a higher low and looking to get in. So I know exactly where my risk is. From here, this is a good example. I mean, if you're going to buy it here, where's your risk going to be? For me, it has to be right down below 550. And that percentage terms risking quite a lot, especially when you're in that overextended mark. It's worth talking about because it's had some nice price action in the past. What do we got here? What am I trying to find? I'm trying to find that. So, as we can see, we've got the market, you know, it's been moving high. That's your reversion to the mean that Davin's mentioned quite a few times that we like to see. That reversion to the mean, it doesn't have to be down, you know, when it does that reversion to the mean. It could just be sideways, which is pretty much what's happened here. And it's still holding higher lows. You can see it touched up here. When it started going up, it started getting accelerating a bit. That's a good washout here. You know, that double top. And in essence, that one we just spoke about, EUC, this is what you'd want to see. It could still do the same thing. There's nothing saying it can't. It's just that you've got to know exactly where your risk is. So if you bought it, for example, just in here, we can draw that up, just on this little high, it's pretty much the same thing as what we just discussed, and it's backed up from there. So it may have dragged you in with a break. It's coming back, it's just reversion to the mean. It could still hold. You know exactly where your risk is if you're wrong. This one kept going, it started building again. So it's just really got to flush out more people. And you can see the buyers were happy through that $3 mark. We're happy to hold it up. And then it held a higher low and started working up, and then it's worked its way up. That price action, see what we see, that double top here, it happened just in here. So it's that similar type of price action. Once we couldn't get through, it's got to have a deeper correction. So it's had a correction, popped back up, couldn't do it, deeper correction, reversion to the mean, still holding the trend up, and it started going on with it there. So if you can just, it's worthwhile just taking snapshots of charts and just writing some notes of what you're looking for, what you're seeing, and just noticing if you're looking to buy into something, just what it's done in the past. It's always good to see what type of price action that particular stock has, it's exhibiting, and then just maybe looking for the same thing, expecting the same thing. So if you're in here looking to buy in that break up there, probably not the best thing because it's done the same thing in the past. You know, bang, bang, reversion to the mean, except it didn't make a lower low like it did at 4, and it was still holding up because that was quite a deep correction there. And then we had that double top, had to wash, still take its time to wash out a few more people out of the market, and then head high, and you've had that leg up there. Bit of reversion to the mean type of trading, come back to the average really, which is, you could say it's that trend line, or the MAs. The MAs hadn't crossed either, they just converged into each other and started expanding back out again. So it's looking really good. What price is that, roughly? My pen's moved by the time I've looked at it. If you're in around here, awesome. If you're in around here, still, that's really good. You can just, you've got yourself locked in a positive trade. I think you should probably have anyway. Just let us know your price and we'll have a look at it. But yeah, either way, it's looking nice. It's still heading high. I mean, that could accelerate. There's no reason to say, and this is what you never try to do, is that the market's extended, it's stretched, you're in overbought territory, let's get out. You really shouldn't be doing that because you could leave a lot on the table. I mean, to be honest with you, we've done it in the past too, but sometimes it's a bit hard when you're up 50% not to take it off the table, but that could be the one that goes up 100%, 200%. Look at BIG, for example, BIG. If you thought that, actually, let's just look at that. If you thought that about BIG, you know, say here you're extended, that's the weekly, I think. Let's look at the daily. It was extended up here, you get out. I mean, you've had another chance. Maybe here it was extended, let's get out. Look what you've left on the table if you did that. Potentially $2 from 250 up to 450 and above. You know, you would have been kicking yourself at that stage. So that's a good, it's just a good reason why you never, look at that, it's spent the good part of the last 2 months, a month and a half been in overextended territory. Now that's not common, obviously, but this is the one that, for example, on the one we're just looking at on, was it MNF 450, okay. Like I said, it's no reason just to think, oh, it's extended here, we're getting extended up here, let's get out, don't do it. I mean, just tighten up your wrist, try to keep it tight, because if it's going to go on strong, it's not really going to pull back, it's going to just keep going strong, and it's just going to keep making new highs, and you can just drag your risk up, your risk level where you're going to get out on your stop loss, drag it up and just keep locking in more and more gains. So yeah, this one could be a bit like BIG, so it's always good, you know, just to try to attack it from that perspective, try to keep it tight without, and give yourself the opportunity for that runner. I'm always happy to give up a bit of gains on one just for that runner that's just going to keep going like BIG. Sometimes, I mean, most of the time it's not going to happen, but the time it does, you want to try to be on board. BIG was a ripper. Oh, exactly. I don't know. You had that in Endor, didn't you? I think you had that. 450. Look, that's awesome. That is a great little entry through there. If you took it in here, or if you took it with this little pop up through here, that's nice. All right, what do we got next? I'm going to take the rest of my profits, pretty much a quarter left. Oh, look, let it go. Oh, I don't want to tell you what to do. We're not giving advice, don't forget, but I'd be inclined to tighten it up. You can see that it's got rejected up here. It's had that little pullback just above 6. It's up there now. I mean, if that topples over from here, you probably have it. Even if you're just locking, if you've got quarter to go, open it up a bit. I mean, that's personally what I'd probably try to do. I mean, that's your major high low around 550. On the last bit, you can lock in again, keep it below there, and just let it go. And if you get ripped out of that, so be it. You've done well. You've done it, had a good trade. But if it just keeps on going, you don't want to. I mean, if you put it around 6, like I was originally thinking, if I had half on, I'd probably leave it I'd like to think I would leave my stop down here, especially if I've got into 450. You can see that if you left you took your first half off, say up towards 6, took it off up here or even up here, you know, locked into some gains, you had half on like I would normally do. I would, once it got through that high at just below 6 on this little move up here, I would lock in the second half here. I would like to think that's what I do, give it a room to move because you don't know what's going to happen. If you moved it to 6, it could easily wash you out without breaking that trend up, build another higher low and then go again, and then go up to 7, 8, 9. You don't know what's going to happen. So this is probably one, everyone says, I reckon entries are not too bad. It's, for me personally, it's getting outs is probably been my downfall in the past. I think I can pick them quite well with my setups and what I'm reading from price action. I get too much psychology in the past. It has a lot drifting into my trading when I'm ready to exit, especially with futures markets, trading the futures. I might have 65% strike rate or 60 to 65%, which is great. But if I'm only getting 1-to-1, you know, okay, you can be profitable after commissions. It might be break even, but that's been the killer for me. And if I start to let them open up, I might drift down to 60%, but I'm getting 2-to-1 more often than not. And that's where you're going to start become profitable. And then you're going to get that odd one that's 4, 5, 6-to-1. And that's what you want. That's really going to kick off your trading. All right. Sidetracked. I'm good at that. What's the next one? But either way, good luck. Good luck on that. It's a cracker anyway. QBL. God, if you're in this one, I hope you're in this one. Now, no, that's... again, look at the entries you got on that. And you can go to, you probably don't need to go to your weekly. Oh. High of 682, and where are we now? 7.4, so we've just taken out that high. Just looking at the history of it, it's had that little spike up there on the weekly. It's had a good couple of weeks up. We've pretty much had a good couple of weeks up. We've just blown out through that high. This thing could keep going. It's going to be a hard one. You can see it's had obviously doing some really good things. This one could be a 10 center where it just pushes through 10 and then you get that major correction. So if you're on this one, Nandor, oh mate, you stay on for the ride, see what happens. But it's gapped up here and it's gapped up again today, which obviously said some good news. VitaHemp product launch, Australian growing goodness, that's good. Medical cannabis, okay. Where are we? Let's get rid of that. Let's escape. So good news, ticked it off. That's doing good things. That could easily really, I mean, this is the kind of thing that could get ahead of itself. It's in a good area. It's coming up towards that, you know, that 10 cent mark. It could easily get to 10 cents. So just hold on for the ride, mate. It's looking good. Chris, I'll get to that one. All right, see, there's not much to say about this one. You know, if you've taken a partial, good. If you haven't taken a partial, it's worth thinking about just the way it's getting extended. It's up 12% today. And sometimes this is where it is, you know, taking a partial can be just as hard, you know, as what we were talking about just before. You haven't really had too many opportunities, even if you just lock it in the low of the day, 6. If you haven't taken a partial, probably put a buy on, a sell and stop at 6 for half of it and see what happens if you can get it kick on more into the close, or tomorrow kicks on more. You don't know. If you have good, just stay on for the ride, mate. Stay on for the ride. It's looking good. What was the other one? Sorry, I've got to go back, haven't I? This way. WBT. So I'm trying to manipulate my mouse. WBT. That's a similar. That's nice, mate. You got some goodies. I should get you ringing me for doing some alerts. That's a nice weekly too, and it's good seeing this type of thing. Yeah, a bit of a blowout, and when it was starting to hold here, buying. If you entered here, great, and have your stop just below 4.5, awesome. If you've entered through here, would have been a tougher entry for me personally, but even in just, if anyone can see just that last little, this here, when it's perking up, it's holding ever so slightly a higher low through here, and then it popped up on this day just here, 2.2, had a bit of a pullback. Whether the volume's high, I don't know. And then when it popped up through that 2.2 mark, if you bought it, I don't know, 2.3 or 4, you've taken advantage of this move up. But if not, if you got in here, great. It's still heading higher. Still looking good. Not much to say. I'm back of good news, eh? Oh, that's good, mate. And two nice ones there. Nando, you must be kicking butt there. Well done. What else we got? APX. Let's see what we're looking at there. APX. Looking at the weekly, that's had a good run up here. Bit of a flush out with a lower high here. Just washed out these lows around 250, then picked up again, so that's nice. That's your secondary leg up. So we're getting extended on that secondary move up, and you can see that's your weekly too, don't forget. The way it's reacted off this high, bang, straight down 3 days in a row. Tried to pick up. It is holding higher lows, but it's running into some resistance around 6. So just keep an eye on this one. If you got it, I'd be, me personally, if I was in from somewhere around here, or if I was in late, I'd be happy to hold my risk potentially just below 543, say, because there is the risk that it's gone hard. We're getting extended on the second leg up on the weekly, one leg up, secondary leg up. We're starting to get extended up here. So for me, that could have that macro correction where we see, you know, on the weekly it has a move up, bit of a pullback, gets the lower high on the weekly, and you get that secondary move down to maybe 450. I'd rather be out and watching on the sidelines and just reassessing it as we go. But yeah, look, I'd be running tight risk on that one and just see if it can push up through. If it gets up through 6, this one could bang straight into new highs through 650, and that move down has washed out quite a few people. You know, late buyers here, potentially some people that have bought it in here that wanted to see as it started to go vertical. And anything that goes vertical, it can't just keep doing that, no matter what people say, no one what the bulls say. It just can't keep doing it. So it's got to flush some people out. There's got to be, you know, it can, sooner or later you're going to run out of buyers. You need people to be on the sidelines, and that's what's happened with that move down. And it's holding some higher lows, but ever so slightly, we could roll over. That could be a minor lower high below 6, take out this low at 550 and then have major correction. You know, like I said, macro correction, or it could just flush through 6, through 650, just extend that further. Who knows? But either way, I'll be running tight on that one. What else we got? APX, BWX for entry and BWX for accumulation. Yeah, if this one's for entry on Appen, APX, if you had it through 6, fine. You'd keep your risk. I would ideally keep my risk below that 550 mark, below these lows anyway. If it's through here, and then just see if we can get through. Just be wary that, you know, if it's an entry, we are slightly getting extended. You know, 1 move up, 2 moves up. You know, sooner or later, this is the people who have bought it way back here. If they're holding longer term, that's been a good couple of years now. Maybe they're going to book profits. Who knows? Just be wary that it's starting to look extended anyway. Nothing wrong with the trade though. If it does pop up through there now. What was the other one? BWX. We've had that a few times. I like that. It looks to be along the same lines. You've had that move up there, and that got to around 550. Bit of a washout. You built that. That's more of a macro correction. You can see one leg down, lower high, secondary leg down, and then started to build again. Even this pullback, that was holding that overall longer term trend up. It's pushed up. It's got to 725 or thereabouts, 730, 740, and we're starting to, you know, we're starting to get a bit extended up here. Like I said, if you're going to enter for accumulation, look, it just depends where you think it's going to go. For me, what I would be looking for, and this is a tough one because the way I would normally look at it, well, this is what I see as a bit of a tough one. The way I would normally look at it, oh, that's right in the way. Where is it? It's down, it's $2. So $2 is so that from $2 up to here is sort of your first leg up, and if you extend it out, what's that? 2 to 550, that's 350. If you take your low from here, just below 4, that takes you to 750, and that's where roughly we are now. And that's the way I would analyze this, saying, okay, if I'm going to go in for accumulation or another, and just see if it can keep grinding higher, maybe for me, I would be expecting, well, from here, maybe, you know, going back to the daily, more of a macro correction, something, and then get that third leg up. Bit of a reversion back to the mean on the longer term. It's starting to get extended, you can see, away from the MAs here. and that just to flush a few people out before we build. And if we can hold some high lows and go again, or we get this type of thing, one, pop back up, that secondary move down, and then we start a leg up, you know, one, we fail here, we get a deeper correction just to flush out a few more people, a few more traders, and then go again. But for me, it's just, the only reason I'm saying that is because I'm thinking if we extend, you know, from 2'd up here, low to high, macro correction, low to high, if you just take the same distance up, roughly that's around 750, and we're just falling short of that now, and we could be looking to get, you know, a little bit extend up here. And you can see that rejection we got through, well, this high, and that day, that was on Friday, opened up, flushed out the high, and then we backed off. We closed on the lows for the day. It was up for the day, but it was, you know, a low close for that day. That's not a really great sign. So maybe just keep an eye on this one. We'll see how he goes anyway. It's still, I mean, longer term, it's still heading higher. The daily's still heading higher. Your risk is down. You know, if you're borderline accumulation on that last part, maybe your risk can be low, 625. It could be anything. But yeah, either way, it's going in the right direction. OSH, what did I type in? OSL? Oh, it was OSL. All right, yeah, no. OSL and YOJ, that's, it's going higher. I mean, you can see that pushed up, it's come back, built a higher low, and we had that move up into a new high, 27 cents, but it's come all the way back down. And it's retesting that area around 750, and we're starting to get back up again on the daily. So just looking at the daily, it's looking good. This, I would expect this higher lows to hold. Maybe it's got a bit more work to do, and then take out those highs at 18. It's still going in the right direction for entries. Look, for me, it'll probably very aggressive. You'd be wanting it through 15, but I think I wouldn't buy it just yet. I mean, I'll be wanting to see a bit of a pullback and a higher low to hold again, and maybe buy on the rise. Always looking to buy on the rise. But yeah, it's going in the right direction. It's just that move down from, you can see that exhaustion, the acceleration high, it's dragging a lot of buyers. They've got flush back out, potentially holding a higher low. So it's showing all the characteristics we like to see. All right. But either way, that's going in the right direction. What else you got there? You know, YOJ. YOJ, is it? For me, this Yoji, that's that weekly. You can see it got ahead of itself. So I want to see more work done, mainly on the weekly, and that would suggest for me to buy into this one. There's a few things I want to see start lining up. Just say that's your average, you know, give or take. We found a little bit of support maybe through here. It hasn't done anything yet. We've had that punch up there. We've had that pullback. It tried to go again. It's had a deeper correction. You know, this here, we could be at that early stages, but I want to see it do more work. We've come up. We've had that pullback. We've come down. We just started to pick up here. We haven't taken out that high. Okay. I want to see some higher lows hold. That's what I want to see before I start to think it's going up. And just a bit more time put into washing it out, washing some traders out, putting them back on the sidelines. And then what you're also going to do with that type of price action is drag in some more buyers, say new buyers, potentially like myself that have just looked at this for the first time. I wouldn't buy it here because I don't know where my risk is going to be. It's going to be potentially right down at 12. That's too much risk, percentage terms, way too much for me. You can have a small position if you're going to risk that in dollar terms. So yeah, I want to see this. I want to see more contraction in price. By contraction, I want to see that. Higher highs, lower highs as well. Higher lows, lower highs, that's what I'm trying to say. And then you'll be able to define exactly where your entry is going to be and where your risk is going to be held. And you can get that risk a lot tighter and try to get it when it's on the rise and it's dragging some more buyers. So this is what I like to look for, because as soon as it breaks out, you know who's in control. It's going to be the buyers. You know, you're breaking out here, and then you start holding higher lows, and you start accelerating through highs to new highs. It's very rarely, you know, it's a nice high probability trade. It's very rarely that you break out of contraction the buyers jump in, and then you start, bang, you return on yourself and you just drop back down. That's less common on stocks. It can happen on currencies, but again, you're probably going to be, when you see something like that, you're probably going to be well and truly stretched on the upside. And that's why I like to see a breakout, then pull back and build a higher low on the currencies. But I like that. I like that setup also on the stocks. But you don't. It's very rare that it's going to do that and wash you back out again. And if it does, again, tough. That's just trading. But you are putting yourself into a high probability setup, if that makes sense. So yeah, that one's got some good potential, to be honest. I think it just needs to hold a higher low for me. I want to see that's your first push down, pop up, your second push down to 12. It's starting to lift again. I want to see. I'd like to be working off a higher low. What else we got? Even if big, gone through that. RHC. Let's have a look at that. I think that's next, isn't it? That's probably going to be the last one then for the day. Ramsey's. All right. I'll have to tick over the. For me, this is just off a glance. That pop through the high is looking to be more of a washout of that high, which would suggest that it's going to roll over today. There's a bit of it just washes out that high. And what's that high at? High at 68.35. It's potentially washed it out today because we took out that low. And I want to mark that up before I take a look at the weekly, because that's not good. Let's do that. Let's try that again. All right, so that's what I'm looking at, and this is just glancing because it pushed down below that that low there. With this little move down, it's popped down and then it's turned around and gone, just popped out, washed out those highs. This could be something where it's washed out the highs, and then we start holding a lower high and have a deep correction, potentially going all the way down. Because what we're seeing is, obviously, I'm going to check it, but on the weekly, it looks like that's a lower high. We've come down, made some lows. We've ground our way back up. And we've come down. We've only taken out the lows ever so slightly. We just washed out those lows. So there is potentially, I don't think longer term we're building a higher low just yet to work from, and then look for your entries on the daily. This could easily roll over, maybe retest those lows. So I'm not convinced that price action, what we're seeing there, is very positive, and it's going to lead to just a continued push up through 76. I think it's got to do a lot more work to do, mainly on the longer term charts anyway. Is that making sense? So this is conducive, sucking in a few buys just with a pop up through the high and then rolling over and then just washing them back out. And then it gets a bit choppy before we start getting a clear direction. This could be a good base where longer term buyers are willing to hold it. Until we look at the weekly, we won't know. So let's go over to there now. And just looking at that move up, you've had this pullback, that more of a macro correction through 2015. It held those lows, and we started working up to highs through $80 up towards $85 a share. We pulled back. We've just got through those lows, and that move down there on a weekly, which is what we just showed, that move down there. I think it's that move down there. Is that right? Yep. That move down there is not very good for longs. I'd be a bit concerned that that's going to be your major lower high, and then from here we roll over, take out 60, and we have a major correction, a macro correction on the weekly charts. And you can see that weekly, that little push up here is taking a bit of effort. So if you look at it in terms of how much strength it's taken to push up there, how much commitment of buying, there's been quite a good commitment of buying, but it's been soaked up. There's been selling just sitting there, hitting them, and holding the price down below 70. So to me, sooner or later that's going to run out of strength. As we get to sort of that extended level, it's going to get a bit exhausted, and we're going to start to build a lower high. And then that, to me, off that weekly chart, we could just roll over and take out 60. But I think I'll be keeping this one just on the alerts and just watching it. I don't know if you're in or out of this, but just keep an eye on it. But anyway, Chris, if you remind me to have a look at that down the track, we'll just see what plays out on it. If I'm completely wrong and it just rolls, kicks up good on it, that's great. That'd be nice. But it's taken a bit of pressure to push it up just to below where it is. And you've had some, if it was strong buying on the weekly, last time we got from here, you did, well, even that, some good selling, some good buying to push it all the way up, and it only got so far as 75. And it got smashed back down to these lows again, just above 60. When it was oversold, and then it started perking out. So buy pressure was trying to lift it, and it can't get too far. So it's just struggling. It can't even get up to 75. It's struggling to get even anywhere near 70 at the moment. So that's where you got. I mean, that's where I like to use stochastics, not so much overbought, oversold, but the strength of the move. What sort of energy or it's like going for a run when you're running up a hill. The steeper the hill, the harder it is, the more energy it takes out of you. And if you can't get up, you're going to have to start walking sooner or later. But if there's a lot more, if you've got a lot more energy, if there's a lot more buying, buys on the sidelines to flow in, it could do it. I mean, it could just spike up to 75 and then you pull back, build a high low and then go. But if we start seeing that roll over, I'll be concerned that it's going to go through 60. Anyway, I hope that makes sense there, Chris. Might have to just call it a day there, guys. Might just see where we're at in the overall market. We've gone from, I think we're up at 25 at one stage. We backed right off, so it'd be interesting to see how this goes. All right, where we're at on these there, that's moved down. That's back above 6, which is good. So I want to see that kick up to 150. I want to see that finish above 150 today. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. Hope we all made sense there. If you've got any questions that I didn't answer or I didn't get through, if I've missed something, feel free to send an email to support@tradesetup.com.au and we'll try to get back to you straight away. But yeah, like I said, we'll be back in on Monday. Thanks for joining me. Any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll see you again on Thursday. Cheers, guys. Bye.